Welcome to Double Barrel Non-Duality. We do this once a month. We do it for channel members, paid channel members at the sustaining level and above. So I do appreciate everybody's contributions. That money goes to things like editing and getting retreat deposits in and all the things that are behind the scenes and keeping a channel like this going. So I do appreciate all those donations. But you also get perks for those, and one of them is Double Barrel Non-Duality, where I myself and another facilitator will answer all of your non-duality, awakening, liberation, enlightenment questions, even emotion work, shadow work type stuff. And every month it's a different person. This month it is Ryan Burton. Do you want to say hi, Ryan? I'm going to unmute you 1 second here. Okay, should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay. Yep. I'm good.
Sweet.
Thanks for bringing
Welcome.
thanks for bringing me on. I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Good to see you here. If anyone hasn't seen Ryan's interview, we did an interview, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and it posted about maybe a week and a half ago or so. So check it out. It was a really good conversation. A lot of people said it was one of the best we've done. So check that out. We just basically go by hand. So if anyone wants to ask a question or run something by us, just raise your hand and I will call on you. When you're not speaking, please try to keep yourself muted, or else what happens is the recording gets kind of messed up because we'll hear these little blips of sound on and off. So try to keep yourself muted unless you're speaking. Let's go to first hand up, I think was Federico.
Hi,
Hey,
how are you? Can you hear me correctly?
yes, I can. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. For some reason today I'm more nervous than usual. Uh, I guess it's because I'm like a really interesting point. Today I finished your chapter on awakening, and it's awesome. It's awesome. I normally read just a little bit of the book a day, just to like let it in. But towards the end of the chapter, couldn't even reading the words. I was just like going with the motion of what you were saying. Uh, Weird. So I can feel what you say about the one-pointed approach being basically the same as the self-inquiry at the top of the mountain. And that's the experience for me, almost like they have a little difference. Like with the one-pointed approach, I feel like there's effort and there's more struggle. With the other one, I feel like it's more like surrendered. And as you were like describing the end of the chapter, like I was in that gap for that whole time, but I feel like there's like that little step you're talking about missing, and like in that gap for a long time, probably an hour, and emotions came. Sometimes there were struggle with them. Sometimes there was easy to manage them. In that time, like thoughts didn't seem to grab my attention. They just came, but I was still in the gap. And then eventually, like I started doing normal life things, and I got distracted again. And then I started to suffer again. Like I could feel again, like, oh fuck, this sucks again. Uh, so yeah, it's weird. Like I feel like I get it, but there's like maybe something missing, or I don't know if my mind is trying to make something miss. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep it really simple for you, and my inclination is to say like what you said at the end is pretty clear. It's like the belief that there's something missing. That's kind of what's hooking you back into sort of mind, I think. It sounds like. So when you're doing what you're able to do and you kind of stay in that gap where you're really not getting re-identified or grasping onto thoughts and getting entangled in the concepts and so forth. It's a bit of a balance. Like there's a like that balance between intention and surrender, like I talk about, but also it gets its own legs after a while. It has a way of propagating itself in a sense, but your job is really to just remain alert enough to notice what kind of thought process is grabbing you. Like, what is it? What is the, it's often a doubt of some form of doubt usually that's like, oh yeah, that I need to think about that suddenly. I need to figure out what I'm missing. Like, do you really need to look around to figure out what you're missing? Or is that just another thought you're buying into? Right. So just what I'm picking up from listening to you is like you're in a very clear place, but there's just a little something little trying to grab you, but it's thought. And just keep like stay that course and just be alert enough such that if anything starts to sort of really grab attention, just kind of notice that's probably just a thought in some way or another and set it aside and just kind of stay in that, and don't strain. Like try to keep some attention in the body to notice, like, because at this level, if you start to strain too much, you'll just tire yourself out. You don't need to tire yourself out anymore. It's a balancing thing. So that's what I'm inclined to say. Just keep alert for any thought that is sort of in the background that's defining your experience or pulling you into thought such that, oh, I don't know, this might not be it. Let me think about that some more or something. Because it's always going to lead to more thought, right?
Yeah. I can hear what you're saying. Mm, so okay, for example, I'm in this gap, right? And I say, okay, yeah, this is the gap for sure, and this is not awakening yet. So that this is not awakening yet is just a thought,
That's right.
but still, like it
But still is also a
isn't,
thought.
right?
So
That's so
what often
weird.
happens, yeah, what often happens is a thought will come and try to define your experience, like, oh, this isn't awakening yet, right? And then you'll notice, oh, that's a thought, and then the next thought is the one that catches you, and it goes, no, but it's true. It can be any thought. The
Yeah,
thought that says,
yeah.
no, but that's true. That's a true thought. That's the one that's catching your attention.
Yeah.
Whatever thought
I,
is suddenly feels like you, that's the one you're identifying with.
yeah, I actually could feel that this exact thing that you were saying like 2 hours ago. Like, oh yeah, no, but this is true. Like this thought is true. Like
Yeah.
this is not awakening. So
Yeah. The
yeah,
thought.
I could
So
feel it.
it's the thought that's saying it's not awakening, right? So is there this thing called awakening? Sure. Yeah. There's a shift that's called awakening, let's say, but the thought won't know it. The thought has nothing to do with that. It doesn't know that. It doesn't know anything about that. And awakening is, again, it's really ultimately when we are able to unbind from those thoughts, and what is revealed is clearly always here. So the always here-ness is obviously always here. So it's not going to come or go, but thoughts think in terms of coming and going and here and not here, right? Do you see how distorting that is? So even the thought that says, oh, but there's not an awakening yet, that's just a thought. It doesn't know whether there's an awakening or not an awakening. It's like the reflection in the mirror can't know what's being reflected. So it's just a thought.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Partially you have
And
to let go of that grip on what you think awakening is, because whatever you think it is not that. It's not.
okay,
It's indefinable.
okay. Uh, okay, yeah. Like my mind wants to know what it is, but yeah, I
That's
guess
right.
I have to let go of that.
Yeah, and there's a mental component. The mind wants to know what it is or wants to think it knows what it is. But I should say there's also an energetic component. There's a feeling of letting go. It's very deep, but it's there, and it's also that. It's like it's kind of both simultaneously.
Mhm.
Just be willing to let go.
Uh, Okay. And when I feel like something that also happened was like, oh, but I can't do this. I can't let go. Like I feel like if I do, then they're going to overwhelm me. Uh, yeah, I know those are just the thoughts, but when I do feel that struggle besides the thoughts, like what should I just focus on the feeling, like in the chapter on emotions?
Go right back to the gap. That's just another form of doubt.
But I feel like going back to the gap there, this is what my mind tells me. If you go back to the gap there, you are avoiding the emotion, you're not feeling it.
That's just another thought. Don't worry about it. In
Okay,
this in this
okay,
in this type of practice, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Yeah. There's gonna be plenty of shadow
okay.
work later down the road for you. That's not what
Oh
this part's
man,
about.
I've been doing shadow work for like over a year, so that's not good
Yeah.
news.
No, it's not good or bad news. I'm just saying with what we're talking about right now, don't worry about that stuff. Those are just doubts.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're not doing shadow
Thank
work right now. You're doing inquiry. So there you go.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Thanks.
it's subtle, but it's very once it really clicks, it's very obvious. A thought
Mm-hmm.
is just a thought, is just a thought, is just a thought. It doesn't matter what the fuck it says. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter the character of the thought. It doesn't matter how serious it sounds or innocent it sounds, whether it feels like you or not. It's all just thought. And you're breaching that first very important veil of identifying with thought. And
Mm-hmm.
don't struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to struggle. Just be patient. Stay that course, and just be alert to any whatever's grabbing you. And you just found like three different things, and that's it. They're all forms of doubt, but all of them seem compelling enough to kind of get on that thought train again. But the thought train only goes to one place. There's only one destination: delusion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Uh,
That-
so, yeah, and if, for example, I chose to do the 1 point approach and I say just focused on, I don't know, like this point, like the third eye, or I don't know, my fingers or whatever, I could just ignore every emotion and thought and just focus on that.
if that works for you, but the way you're describing the gap sounds right on the money to me. The one pointed
Okay.
approach is to get you to that really.
Oh,
So, but
okay.
if you have the gap, if you know what that is and it's clear, you're fine. That is the 1 point for
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just to stay
Yeah.
in the gap. That's the 1 point.
Mhm. For you now, it
Okay.
is. It sounds,
Okay.
that's what it sounds like to me. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds easy.
Cool, man. Ryan, you have
Thanks.
anything else for this one?
Um, it's a bit difficult because I don't know the context of what he's describing from your book. What's the gap?
Well, let's ask him. What's the gap?
Okay. Man, it's a space that feels like empty, but it also feels like me. And like thoughts kind of merge in that space, and emotions, it all kind of blends in that space. And sometimes just like it's hard to think there. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Does it feel more or less real than anything thoughts say?
Um, yeah, no, for sure, it's like it's before thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ryan, I might just define it as when people first start to taste the experience of unbound consciousness, and it's kind
Mhm.
of simultaneously being experienced with that tendency to identify with thoughts.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I think your pointer on noticing that this isn't it is just a thought. This is it is also just a thought. And the point is to, in my opinion, just let experience be exactly what it is. Um, a good inquiry, like it's important to delineate between the inquiry sessions and the shadow work sessions, because if you mix the two, then it's hard to make headway with both. Those wires keep getting crossed. But an important question to ask is, what is it that doesn't want to let go? What is it that doesn't want to die? What is it that's holding on? And actually look at that. Is it a feeling? Is it tension? Is it this like stickiness, attachment, or glue that the mind has to experience? And that's definitely a thing to investigate. And there's no right answer on that. It could be different for each person. So
And okay, so I would try to investigate that and
just feel it.
not okay, okay,
Yeah, feel it.
just feel it because something
Feel
in me
that res
tries to no something in me tries to feel it, and so I can get over it, So it, like something in me wants to push, like, oh, this is not it, just go one step further. So should I just feel that one that is trying to push and just feel it?
It's like this. One of the meditation advices I give to a lot of people is give your mind permission to wander and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. Give
Okay.
yourself permission to resist.
Mm.
And that distance that is born as a result of that permission um is profound. It will help. Yeah.
Okay.
Give your mind permission to reach, to crave, to hold on and see what
Mm.
happens.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. I'll
You're
do it.
welcome. You're welcome, my friend. Talk to you soon. All right, let's go to bottom of the list. Let's go to Brandon.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you guys. So long story short, 19 years ago, big up and out awakening. Um, this is it. It can never get any more real than this. There's no further that this can go. This is reality, all the whole bit, right? And then like 3 months later, the aperture closes down. Can't embody it. And then of course, the mind is like, I need it. I want to get it back. I want to get it back. At some point, that stopped. But, um, and then I just lived my life for 19 years. And the most important thing in my life for those 19 years has been truth, God, um, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I never really even tried to get back there again, if you know what I mean. Like the mind just kind of like was like, okay, that was an experience that happened in the past. It's gone, whatever. Um, 5 months ago, just through doing what I'm just through living, I had another awakening just out of the blue, and it just blew everything wide open. And it was not. It was the deep shadow. Everything that I had been running from my entire life, all of it, all the trauma, all the fear, all of it. I had to go through the middle of it, through the bottom of it. I had no choice. This was not, I mean, I know, this is not conscious. And it's just, it brought me to a point where it was just like, I, instead of resisting the pain or trying to run from the pain or trying to create a better experience, it was just like it cleaned my clock. And I started to just be able to separate the the thoughts from the sensations, right? And realize like all this terror, all this grief, all also to add to this, even before this happened, 4 months before this happened, I started crying a lot. And to this day, it's been 10 months of grief. I mean, profound, sometimes 10 times a day crying until I cannot breathe that hard. Um, so that's been happening concurrently, but it just brought me to the point where I almost was started enjoying all sensate experience. It was like, um, and like you mentioned in other places, like I knew this is where I had to go. And so my question, I guess it's twofold. Now it's like it's into the senses here for me. Um, I had the whole witness, and it was like deconstructed as just subtle thought and sensation, and I just know I need to go into the senses. And when I do, it's like I see the presupposition of the person when I try to inquire. It's like the person is trying to inquire, and um, it like instead of things being aware of themselves, I don't have that experience, and I see person trying to create that experience or make that experience happen or something. And I don't know, is there anything I can do other than just see that and be with it? You know I'm not gonna push or pull on it. And yeah, in one of your videos about the deep shadow, you're like, at this point, you know that this process is out of your hands. And like that's exactly where I am. Like I'm done. You know what I mean? Like what I thought was my life, what I thought was what I wanted, it's done. Like it's over. For the most part. I mean, there's still flailing. I still feel the flails.
Sure.
But even like the notion of getting something out of this process, it's like I still sometimes we'll see that flail and just let it be, and it's like diminishing greatly the energetic component of it, the fear or whatever. But I was wondering, do you have any advice or words?
Sure. Hey Ryan, do you want to start on this, or you want me to?
Yeah, you could go. Yeah.
Sure. So I just have a couple simple things to say. They're sort of practical things. And just one comment, that the thing you said towards the end there about realizing like this is, this life isn't quite yours now. You realize it's something I could say bigger, but it's not necessarily more grandiose. It's just not so much in your hands, that there's a process here that's beyond you and beyond me and beyond all of this that is driving. And let's call it the Dharma. And there's a maturity I see in realization at some point. It doesn't always fall with the same specific insight, but at some point I see that maturity come online where it's like, you can call it the sixth ox herding picture in one sense, where the guy gets up on top of the ox, but he's riding it backwards. He's playing his flute. He's like, I might as well play the flute, man, because I'm going wherever this ox is going. I have no idea where it's going, but I'm on the ride and I'm not getting back off. And there's a maturity to that. And it sounds, you can almost romanticize it, but it's kind of hard too. It's a major realignment of your life. So anyway, I just want to kind of acknowledge that, and that's good that you acknowledge it yourself. The opposite of that, by the way, which is not what your issue is, but some people have this, and this is really bad, is in deeper realization to really start fighting this process. That's really bad, meaning bad for the person. It's torture. They torture themselves trying to fight this, like trying to make this about them, and it's not going to happen. So you have a maturity there, which is really good, and I think that's a very good framework for as this sort of clarifies and deepens. You got the full on shadow work, full on 10 months of straight day-to-day intensity, and not everybody gets it that densely, but you did. For whatever reason, that's how it is. So that's good, but it's tough to move through. My guess is it's going to start to settle. You're never like done 100% with shadow work. I would never say that to anybody, but you definitely can find a place of profound equanimity where the textures of emotion and so forth can become rather subtle and enjoyable and sort of incorporated into the sort of non-dual flow of experience, or however you want to say that. And you are at that part of realization now where engaging the sense fields and really looking into those pretty subtle but profound insight, the specifically non-dual insight, is valuable for you. So I have a non-dual playlist. Pick anything in there. They're all sort of oriented toward the sense work and that. Find what works for you. I do want to say, and this is a technical point. I think it's helpful and it's important that you pointed it out. We can trip up on this issue of, it still seems like there's someone there trying to do the inquiry. It still seems like there's someone there trying to engage the sort of non-dual inquiries and so forth. That's not a problem, actually. That typically doesn't actually go until after. So in my experience, the sense of the subtle self-sense that can be completely overlooked, even with non-dual realization, because it's so subtle, it often is there, even through the non-dual insights. That sense that there's still something back here, even though you really can't find it. There's no clear subject, but there's still a sense of something kind of stepping back from experience to drive experience or orient attention or whatever. Don't get too up in your head about that. Don't worry about it. It's there. Let it be there. Once the non-dual, what I find is once the non-dual realization is clear, where the sense of boundaries literally just sort of goes away completely, the experience of form, the experience of perceptual distance is essentially eradicated, then it's much easier to track that down. It's still challenging, but it's easier to track that subtle self sense down because there's literally nowhere for it to hide anymore. And it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb when it's there. And it tends to be conditions based. So when conditions are uncomfortable, it'll pop up. And when they're not, you may just have total presence. So I wouldn't worry too much about that at this point. If it's interesting to track it down, or if it's interesting to really try to precisely inquire into what it is, if it's a feeling, a sensation, a location, then do it. But you don't necessarily need to like eradicate that or worry about whether or not that's there to engage the sort of sense fields. If you were to look into the visual sense field and really ask yourself, like, as I notice this, what assumptions are made that make it feel as if there are objects out there and a perceptual apparatus here? Like, it feels like that, but why? What is it? What is being assumed here? What is the assumption? And track that assumption down. That's all you need to do. That's all this really is about with non-dual. It's a very subtle and precise thing. That's why it's hard, if not impossible, to do before a deep, awakening. But it's definitely doable. It's definitely and it can become rather enjoyable, especially if you learn to approach it from a place of relaxation, calm. And as Ryan said earlier, don't mix it with shadow stuff. Like, if there's shadow work to do the shadow work. It's kind of a different phase of work, and it will come and go periodically. But as that calms down, you'll find just more relaxed space and presence that feels like there's a lot of equanimity, such that it's easy to do that kind of precise investigation. It becomes rather enjoyable. So I would just look more at the context and the basis from which you approach it, and don't worry so much about that sense that there's somebody there doing it. That probably will drop out later, in my experience.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Ryan, you got anything?
Yeah, definitely. So when we're doing the shadow work, usually there's a kind of goal, like resolution is a goal, healing is a goal, clearing is a goal, working through it is a goal. These are all aims that are part of shadow work. But one thing that you can do also, because it's so strong and prevalent for you, it has been strong and prevalent, is that since you have already had the collapse of the witness, your capacity to sense the awakeness or the aliveness of sensations and arising may be more precise than it would be for someone who hasn't had that. So you should really, really utilize that. So when the afflictions come up, or when the anxiety or the fear comes up, I mean, you can literally just put your attention right into it. And through that attention and through sensing the awakeness in the energy of the affliction, there's a way to actually drink fear, to really ride anxiety and whatever difficulties are coming up. I mean, that's full integration. Like, when you can actually sense the awakeness of pain and the awakeness of your grief, that's how you can bring your afflictions that are in that shadow department of your unfolding really right to the front and to the center. It doesn't need to be something that you need to make extra time for. You can really just, when it's coming up, when the irritation's coming up, when the pain, the anger, the rage, sense the aliveness and awakeness of it, because your mind is appearing as that. Experience the particular configuration of that moment is arising as that intensity, as that fear. And the fear is not apart from your consciousness, not apart from your mind. So you can really just allow yourself to sense the aliveness of it. If you can let fear kill you. You can let rage kill you. You can let it be so immediate, so immense, so immaculate that nothing else exists but the awakeness of that fear, the awakeness of that pain.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing. I've actually been going out of my way to do things that my mind says don't do that, because I want the conditioning to come up, because I want to give it attention. I want to feel it, rather than run from it. And the shadow work part of this now, I mean, the past 19 years, I was like consciously trying to clean up my stuff and be better, and just like I was doing shadow work. Now the shadow work did me. It was like, that's this experience.
Yeah. It's like when you're practicing, and for so many years you're doing the practice, and then at some point you're the practice is doing you, and then at some point there's no practice if there's no you. You know, your question about, or the statement you made too about when you said that like you're not exactly at the stage where everything is aware yet, and you know that's the case for other people, but you're not attempting to force that or push yourself there. That's a sign of the maturity in your practice. Like your main orientation is what is here, like what is actual for you, what's actual for me, or what's actual for anyone else. That's not important. That exists in thought as far as you're concerned. So the important thing is what is the case, what is actual, what is experience, what is mine, this. Yeah.
Can I ask you guys one more quick question? Do we have time?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. One thing that I've been, I don't know about struggling with, but it's been a thought, right? Like I intuit people, spiritual teachers, getting stuck at certain points in this process. And there's a fear there that I don't want to get stuck. I want this process to complete itself no matter what I have to experience, no matter what it takes, no matter what I have to feel. I don't want to be, some mystic or spiritual teacher or whatever it is. You know what I mean? What should I look out for, I guess? Is there something that I should look out for that stops this process for people, or where people get stuck, I guess I should say?
I just have two simple comments. One is I'm not worried about that with you at all, because you obviously understand the gravity of what this is about and how easy it is to screw things up by trying to teach other people too early. That's number one. So I'm not worried. I wouldn't even worry about it. The person who wants to be a teacher doesn't say things like what you just said. They contact me and subtly hint that I endorse them as a teacher and stuff like that. Like it's just a totally different
That's
energy.
not even on the map for them, bro.
Yeah. It's not even, no, that doesn't make any sense, right? So so that's number one. And number two, for anyone else listening who wants a piece of advice, okay, couple things. There's a ton of wellness teaching now, which is wonderful. Like it's exploded, right? There's coaching, there's mindfulness practice, yoga, there's meditation teachers. That's none of the stuff I'm talking about. I'm talking about direct insight and awakening teaching. That's what I'm talking about right now. And what I would say about that is the way you should know when it's time for you to be a teacher is if life really, really pushes you into it and you really aren't that interested, but somehow you're kind of pushed into it. I don't know. That's how it felt like for me. It was like years and years and years. And I still can't identify as a teacher. And there's still part of me every day that's like, should I even be doing this? So that's one thing. But the other one really is like somebody asks you to teach and you really trust them. They really have walked this path for you. They really have, profound realization themselves. You trust them. They have a good probably a community themselves, and they have the fruition, and it shows in their ability to actually transmit it. If that person asks you to teach, then that's probably a good sign as well. So I would say one of those two things. But more importantly, if you want to be a teacher, if you're in there going, God, I really just can't wait till I'm a teacher, you really, really, really got to ask yourself, why is that? Why do you want to be a teacher? Why do you want to teach this stuff? Because I guarantee you the reasons you want to are not necessarily the right reasons. They're probably looking for validation at some level, looking to be seen, looking to be in a position of power. And it's so easy to overlook this stuff because they're so deeply ingrained in our psyche. So if you have an impetus to want to be a teacher, I would really, really, really look into it and ask yourself why, sit with it. Even ask your friends why. Look around you, see what's going on, see how you're made up to that even comes up for you. That's my advice.
It reminds me of something one of my teachers in Thailand said, because when these monks and nuns, when they meditate for a very long time, they can get into these really deep states and even experience things like omnipresence, and all kinds of miraculous stuff can happen. And so I asked him, you've seen great practitioners and great teachers fall, like, leave the monkhood, or like take a bunch of money that wasn't theirs, or whatever the scandal or the issue is. And I asked him, how do you prevent that? And his answer was very unique. He said, you have to remember the relative. You have to remember your parents, your friends, who you were in time. and you have to live from the heart. And the one thing to watch out more for than anything else are your own thoughts. Yeah, because there's no one else that's going to lead you astray. It's you. So, yeah.
Thanks for your comments and your questions. That was a good conversation. All right, let's go to Lisa.
There we go, got it. Hi, thank you.
Hello, Lisa and friend.
Yeah, Phoenix. So I feel like you've addressed a lot of what I'm going to bring up. It's not dissimilar to the last questioner, but if you can just help with any guidance or just to dispel anything that I'm not seeing clearly, I'd really appreciate it. So several years ago, I had an experience as well where for about a month, I was sitting in deep inquiry and really looking at the question, can the perceiver be perceived? And I kind of got to a point where I gave up and the mind gave up. And from that point, a shift in focus happened. And then I took the question, but who is the mind talking to, deep into that space? And a phenomena began to occur where I just started to get pulled into a disillusion. And I could really keep my focus on myself as the self at that point. And a spiritual power began to just dissolve everything. And there was major distractions that came up to try and pull me from that space, but there was an awareness just to sit with it. And over that space of a month, it kind of got to the point where the pull became so strong that I couldn't grasp on anymore, and the appearance of the manifest realm began to break down, and then the experience, like I was dissolving, happened. And at that point I actually tried to get up and go to seek help because it was overcoming a fear, just absolutely overcome me. And for hours, it kind of just an intense energy pushed through, and it just got to the point where there was no one here, but I still existed. And in that point, it was just such a profound and shocking realization. There was just nothing, no, but everything. As awareness, I was everything, but nothing was here. And I was in Portugal at that point and at a retreat center. And the very next day I was booked to head home back here to New Zealand. And so straight after this major opening where there's no inner, there's no outer, there was no me, there's no seeking, I was on a plane pretty much having the experience of going nowhere. It's like coming home but going nowhere, and even just walking through myself, there's just no sense of space or of the tangible realm. And I don't really have a gauge of time, but for several weeks the waves of disillusion continued, and still that sense of no inner, no outer. And but I was back in my normal environment and not around anyone that I could even explain what was happening to me. And then after several weeks, what happened was I noticed I had a choice again. That was the first thing that happened. I realized I'd actually made a choice. I'd just been in the unfoldment, and then I noticed the sense of choice come back. And at that moment, when I realized that choice came back, I could see that there was a concept that kind of reformed. It started to reform a sense of self. And the concept was, and I've just been hearing this, I lost something, I lost it. And because there was a kind of a popping out of, well, not popping, it's hard to use the words to explain it, but something, the sense of a chooser became present. So I realized I took myself away again and sat deep in that space. And at that point, I realized I had one of two choices: to either align as presence or self, or to kind of engage the conceptual realm. And if I picked up thought, then the concepts would spring forth. But if I chose to align in that space, then the presence and the space would continue to be there. And then for about 5 years, an onslaught of intensity came. And it was just so confusing because when there was that great opening, there was a sense that I could never believe or trust thoughts or emotions again. And the onslaught was so immense at points of that. I felt like I was in a battle for my soul. It was, and the inner fortitude to just continue to stand in the understanding of the truth of being into a line as the self was all that I could do. But it felt, it was all consuming. And the subtle undercurrent at the back of that was what a fall from grace, like what, but at the same time, also awarenesses that I was building inner fortitude and maturity. And because of the understanding of the truth of beingness, I was called to stand in such meticulousness of all that was being presented. And so that was also building some kind of understanding as well, because every time I kind of choose to align as the self, nothing's lost. Nothing's lost. But at the same time, there's the experience of this intensity and this battle for my very own self. And five years later, that intensity has now burnt off. And yeah, there's not that the battle's not there. The whatever that is, it's gone. But I guess the question is just, yeah, I just wanted to kind of check in and see where I am and because I I watch videos, but the mystery is not there. The mystery, the seeker to understand it, I've seen it, but I'm not fully consumed in what it once was. And so is there another contemplation that I can take to open it more fully, or is it just about basking in the presence of that undivided attention and just allowing whatever else is to occur? Everything seems really simple. My life is really, really simple. There's not any compulsion to want to investigate anything other than what's just arising in the moment. But yeah, I'd love just to check in and see. Yeah. Oh, we can't hear you.
Thank you. I muted myself. So yeah, my inclination is not to talk to you in terms of maps or anything like that. This is all very intuitive. Okay. Let me ask you this, just to answer as simple and intuitively as you can. What is this all about? All of this. I mean, that those intense shifts, the complete dissolution, the reconstitution of the self through some kind of choice, but never really losing the initial insight. What is this all about?
It doesn't really seem like it's about anything. It's just it's just something. It doesn't really feel like it's about anything.
What's the only thing it could possibly be about, if it could be about anything at all?
Just a reorientation into the beingness of the who I've always been.
Sure. And does Lisa benefit from that?
No, no,
Doesn't have to do with right. So what could it possibly be about?
About
There's only one reason you would have to go back through all that.
go back through all of that.
The 5 years of how'd you described it really well. I can't remember the words you used, but
Yeah, dissolving what is not real.
mm-hmm. Yeah. There's only one reason, is that's the benefit. That's the benefit for everyone, for the Dharma. That's the only reason this happens. So there's a spectrum I see. Take this with a grain of salt if you want, but I feel it pretty strongly with you. There's a spectrum I see of people who, even in deep realization, it's like a karmic spectrum, and you're on this end of it, and that's the end I might call like the movement of the bodhisattva. Um, it's just what it is. There's something moving through you that's very, very powerful in that way, profoundly compassionate, but it also moves from what we call like prajna wisdom or transcendent wisdom. And I don't know what that's going to look like exactly for you, but it's very powerful. And you don't need any answers from me. You don't need me to endorse anything. You just need to trust this process as fully as possible. Trust where it leads you, and it's going to surprise you where it leads you probably. But that's all I have to say. Do you feel what I'm? Can you feel what I'm saying to you?
I can feel what you're saying, and as soon as I even logged on to the Zoom, I could feel the energy moving through, and so I do. I feel it, and more than anything, just to connect in with the power of the presence through the Zoom is phenomenal because I feel it.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
If you don't mind, message me and just stay in touch because I want to keep track of you. See how you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Really
Thank you.
good. Good. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing all that. Yeah. Yeah. Like we were talking about, sometimes you do the Dharma practice and sometimes the Dharma does you. Yeah. Brian, I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, I had a similar unfolding to you, so it was awesome to hear someone else describe that similar process. The first awakening happened to me when I read Ramana Maharshi. The words were, "Moksha, liberation, is to know that you were never born." And like my skull cracked open, and I entered the state you were in, for 10 days. Just pure. I call it the discovery of presence. That's really what it is, and that discovery is so deep that you wake up from who you were as a person in time. And I also had a receding of that back into, and the personality structure came back to the forefront. And I also had the sense that I was kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and like, oh my God, what has happened? It's crazy. You literally feel the contraction. You actually feel the reestablishment of duality. It's the trippiest thing. The reestablishment of the personality structure. And for me, because I went through that, what happened was I called it this dance between the foreground and the background. There's a foreground background split. The background is the self and the foreground is the ego and the dualistic perception. And maybe even when you meditate now or periodically, you get the background in the front. So you're abiding as a self, don't really sense the sense of you as a personality anymore. And then at some point something happens and it shifts back, right? So for me, this dance continued until it started to dawn on me that presence was not an experience. It was the nature of experience. Like the word that people often use, the phrase that people often use is, I was resting in the presence. So when you're resting in the presence, there's still the subtle dualism. There's you in the front connecting with the background. But what begins to happen and what gradually opens up through this refinement, because what really is occurring to you is that it's like your sense of a me is gradually getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, even after you were kicked out of this state or whatever. What happens is that there's the realization that the abidance is presence. Everything is awake. The awakeness is not back here. It's not this self that is watching. The watching itself is awake. So my issue was that because that collapse of the personality and the discovery of presence, it came with all this other stuff like bliss, out of body experiences, all kinds of unusual things happen. So I mistook the presence for the experiences. And I thought, oh, well, if there's no complete vanishing of the personality structure and immaculate sense of love streaming forth from the heart center. That's not it. But the point is that your mind is arising as that. Presence is arising as those awakening configurations, those dimensions of enlightenment. It's not this static thing. And the state that you had back then, your mind appeared as that. Your nature appeared as that. Your nature appears as the awakened state. It appears as the ignorant state. It appears as sleeping. It appears as being awake, being aware. You know, the nature is appearing as all of this. So the point is to just abide, or to just rest in the nature, or rest as the nature. The words don't even capture it, you know. the in, the as, those words don't capture it. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. The important thing is, what is the case now?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. And is there a point where it all goes away again?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the resting, for me, I kind of call it basking. It's like a basking in that, but is the basking then just become continuous experience and the formation doesn't come back again?
The sensations of your tongue against your cheek are basking.
Yeah.
Your eyelids flickering are basking.
Yeah.
My nostrils flaring are basking.
Right, so the sense of being kicked out doesn't come again. It, like what you related to that feeling of being kicked out of grace. So there's a point where you don't get kicked back out.
Check this out. Okay, so there's a Bible quote that says, "In my Father's house there are many rooms," right? So what has happened in samsara, your nature is the room, is the house. And you've gone into this room called an incarnation, and you're looking at the shelves, and you're starting to read these fantasies of the books on the shelves. Not only have you forgotten that you're in a room, but you've forgotten the house. You've forgotten the house and the room. You're lost, you know, in fantasy land. But the point is that the truth is, you never left your Father's house. You never get outside experience. You never get outside mind. Everything that happens is mind. Everything that happens is experience. Whether it's awakening, whether it's, you know, when you were 5, the best moment of your life, the worst moment, that was all your nature. That's all you. So it can appear as an ocean of 10 billion suns and this cosmic bliss, or it can appear as the simple ordinariness of the crap you have to deal with every day. Yeah. Your nature appears as that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I also wanted to, Ryan said it perfectly. I wanted to answer the last thing you asked as well. And it's, you know, one way of saying it is that subtle residue that wants to know where it stands in a way. Even that goes away. So it's the entirety of all possibilities and non-possibilities arising as your hands, the sensation of your fingers touching your other fingers, as the pain in my stomach right now, as anything, everything. And there's an aspect to it that's very hard to talk about because it's not continuous. There's no continuity. It's like it's too real to be continuous. There's no before or after at all. And so it becomes very difficult to describe this. And you're just going to continue to die into it. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
I sent you a message, by the way.
That particular comment you just made about wanting to know exactly where you are, when you actually look at that aspect of consciousness, is really dependent on memory. You know, memory is really the bedrock of this sense of identity in time. And when you see that as a formation, a lot can begin to be released and opened up, because there are states of consciousness where your memory of you is not present at all. I mean, in dreamless sleep, anyone here who's experienced that, there's no conception of you. There's no conception of self. And it's because the capacity for memory is not existent in that state. So you can really see it's like, oh, this wanting to orient myself in time, this wanting to figure out, where exactly I am on these maps. It's really based on this notion that you exist in time at all. And that is really bound up in the faculty of memory, perceptions, feelings, whatever we call self is really just a series of processes. And it's those processes themselves that are attempting to, figure out where you are, how awakened you are, or if you're awakened or not. None of that exists if you don't have memory. It's just won't be there.
Okay. Let's move on to Anna Harina.
Hello.
Hello.
So I will give a quick description what happened in the last 5 weeks. And it's all changing, like changing and changing and changing. So it went from noticing there is no boundary, and a few weeks later, one day, I was just like, oh, I can't find body. It's just like all, just no separation can be found anywhere at all, anywhere I look. And it's like, if you put like 3 monitors and drive mouse around, that's how it feels. It's just like seamless. Anywhere I look, I like can't make separation at all. And so it's sometimes like a horizontal goes like vertical, and it becomes like screen. Like distance perception is still there, but the distance perception, if I look like sometimes and just sitting in the car, looking in the car in front of me, and it feels like it's here, and same time it's there, that type of way. Mostly with like big like openings, like seaside or like wide like far away street or like mountains. That's very like a screen type of feels like. So one day I was looking through the window and I can see like grass outside there, and I just like, when I looked at that and I was like, clearly, there is no separation there. And I noticed that a house wall, what separates me from the grass is just a thought. And that moment was like, shit. And it really, something really started to freak out. And like looking for like a shelter, like a safety shell, something, like where that can contract in. And so a few days later, I was lying, like falling asleep in bed. And because, especially with his eyes closed, he just can't feel body at all. He's just like hanging in the air. And that sensation really started to freak out. Something here was just like, no, 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 I don't want this, and crying and just like really resisting. And I just like, okay, I pushed my back against the wall and I just felt that sensation. And just, to that sensation, there was a body form picture attached, and it was like a baby holding, like toy, and that's really soothed nervous system. I fall asleep, everything was okay. Next day, I was like all different thoughts, and I just like, okay, just go into body, just go into sensations. And once I went into sensations, like it's all settled. And sometimes it just like mental mapping like stops, like mental orientation stops, and it just like just body just walls, just body does. And the visual perception, like you just sometimes it feels like personal, like I'm looking, sometimes it feels like just like camera filming. There's no personal aspect in that, just like visual information. Um Sometimes it just feels like everything like mush up, like mushed, like collapsing, like that. Yeah. Um and like noticed like attention start go into senses like itself automatically. It's like it used to be like I needed, like to think, oh, like just put attention into senses, notice sounds, notice sensations, but now it just like automatically just like goes into senses, just like resides there. And what happened um when there was like really something was trying to grasp on body sensations, like this is me, this is me, this is me. And a few days later, I was driving and I noticed people are walking. Because it feels like sometimes it feels like everything is me because you can't separate. I'm just like, oh, like everything feels like me. And I was just like, okay, so this, like small contracted into a body shape, me trying to grasp something, and this like big expansive everything is me. There's no difference. It's the same thing. And so today at one stage I was just like woke up and it just felt like stopping, like stopped. And that was just trying to grasp that couldn't be formed, it just wasn't forming. And it felt like there is no bottom there, that type of way. So yeah, it's all this, I don't know, it just feels like rambling. And I can't, like, it just feels like I don't know what to practice. I don't even know how to practice and like what to do. I just like something's happening, just you don't know what you are, where you are, how you are, and this sensation, that feeling like something is here. It's like air balloon. Um yeah, it's like air is here and air is out, and something like a air balloon makes to feel like something still here, and it's something that can be found. And anytime that looking is trying to look, it's just like an eye trying to flip around and can't do that. So maybe you could give feedback. What the heck?
You want to start, Ryan, or
Oh, this is awesome.
right?
It's just awesome. Yeah, I mean, all
Anna,
kinds of
can you
weird
say
stuff.
something real quick so he can see you instead of me?
Hello, Ryan.
Hi, hi, hi. So, yeah, it comes with the territory. Weird stuff's gonna happen. You might have the sense that your body's not perceptible, or it disappears, or you might go through a stage where you just stop thinking, or thought completely empties out. So basically what happens is the various aspects of your experiential field, the body being one of them, it's an appearance in the experiential field. All of this starts to get emptied out. So and it can be, what gets emptied out particularly could be different, or is different, depending on the person. So for you, you're having all this body stuff, the body's emptying, you don't sense it. The best advice is to not really be too concerned with what happens, you know, just like relax to the best that you can. Just like, it's gonna happen. If the body's not there, fine, the body's not there. If your mind or your thoughts aren't there, fine, let your mind and your thoughts not be there. If time disappears, fine, just let everything be as it is. Of course, you need to watch out for, like, managing yourself in space time and being able to get things done, if you have a job or if you're raising kids and stuff like that. But yeah, just navigate it as skillfully as you can. But your question of, I don't know what to practice, or how to practice, um the idea is to really just be awake. That's fundamentally it, and you likely have, yeah, if that makes sense, then that's all you need to do.
Pretty much, yes. Because
Yeah.
like anything of this, what I just said, it makes that importance happens only in the moments when that happens. Once that happened, it's just gone. It really doesn't matter. Like even now when, like I'm building up all this story, it's just like, what's the point? Like it's just like just making up something. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah, that type of way. So yeah, it really does make sense what you're saying.
Yeah, but just know like it will probably get weirder, you know. Yeah. Comes with the territory for sure. It's like you're just sitting there and like there's complete identification with the lamp. The lamp's like, oh, what the right? Yeah, it can get weird. It can
Yeah,
get
it's
weird.
like I was eating lunch one day and it nearly threw up because it's literally felt like I'm eating myself.
Right. Yeah. I call that I am everything. It's a specific configuration of awakening. Yeah. So just let it happen, let everything be. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, thank
Angelo,
you.
you got any thoughts? Anything you want to
Yeah.
add here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what Ryan said is pretty much right on the money. Like there's so much already unfolding for you and with your experience and so forth, and it can get very bizarre and disjoint and formless, and then it's just bizarre. But it's clearly propagating on its own, and that's wonderful. So it's not much you need to do, if anything, really. It's obviously getting its own momentum going there. I can offer a couple things. Actually, what Ryan said about practical things are important. So you may actually notice like your perception of time changes so much that setting alarms, making simple schedules may be necessary because it's easy to lose hours and days and stuff. So
Mhm.
sometimes you do need some practical adjustments. Be careful while you're driving, of course, especially while these perceptual shifts are happening where it's like flat and then distance and then two distances at once and then no distance. But you will adjust to that, actually, strangely enough. Even after years for me, though, there's still times when it's like I really have to focus. Like if it's dark and the non-dual presence is so powerful, it's like I literally experienced that car inside me and me inside the car and all the things. And it's like, okay, really focus on what you're doing here. And I haven't had any accidents or anything, but like sometimes I can just tell like I need to really focus on what I'm doing. So the perceptual stuff, you do get used to it, and the perceptual distance bizarreness, you do get used to it, but it's always like that. So it's just one of those things. The only other thing I thought to say is when you were talking about like if you're laying in bed and it's like close your eyes and it's just absolute formlessness, no center, no body, no nothing. That also will continue to evolve, and at some point it will become, I might just say that's the kind of nothingness, the no thingness will become integrated with that radical intimacy. And you can kind of work at that a little bit. Like if it just feels too formless or too blown out, just put your hand on the smooth, cool sheet or the pillow and feel that fullness. Like, because there's a fullness to that luminosity. That
Mhm.
luminosity also isn't anywhere, but it's a different kind of not anywhere. It's the not anywhere that's everywhere. And it's
Mhm.
very intimate. It'll become more and more intimate, and also just the body sensations. And even though it doesn't feel like they're in a body or they may feel non-dual, those sensations can be really helpful. So if there's this like massive formlessness, take a breath and just feel how enjoyable it is to actually feel that breath. And it's just like it's everything breathing.
Mhm.
So sometimes if there's too much formlessness, we're actually like out in the senses and not noticing the body sense as much. So you can kind of play with those textures a little bit. It will start to balance itself out until it's like empty fullness and like, sort of radiant emptiness that has a very nice balance to it, where it's not too blown out into nothingness, and it's also not too like almost indulgent in the intimacy, where it's just they're very naturally balanced, I guess is the best way I can say it. But this will all happen naturally over time for you, and you're doing fine. I can tell you've obviously, done a lot of work in this lifetime or others, but something has led to this kind of major unfoldment. So that's great.
Yeah, that's what I noticed like when I put attention in the body sensations, even, like basically just sensations, what feels like body. It feels like very anchoring. It's like anchors you, like,
Yeah.
like a boat in this, yeah, in
Yep.
ocean. And this like a distance perception, like that was very funny one day when I was driving, and that man is there here, and you can literally see how mine just they're here, oh, he's there. And I was doing that with cars and everything, just like, trying to calculate that distance to
Yeah.
make it right, like, yeah, where is it,
Yeah. Yep. Yes, yep. And so, take your time and take it all easy as you adjust to all this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so
Cool.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, great to hear from you.